everything that she says, why is she saying it? Where is that coming from? What experience has she had to make her say this, to behave in the way she's behaving? And just have to really delve into your own life. Where are the similarities between me and Dorothy? Where are the differences between me and Dorothy? And you generally do that with every character.
Hello, my name is Eline Perez and you're listening to Are You an Artist? Today's episode is with Carol Parradine and it's about acting, comedy poetry and the dream of EastEnders. Carol is such a brilliant actress. I saw her perform Dorothy Parker in What Fresh Hell Is It at the Libra Theatre Cafe in Camden, which is where we recorded this beautiful episode in which she generously shared her story. Have a wonderful time with Carol. Dear Carol, I had the chance to see you act for the audition, rehearsals and performance of the play What Fresh Hell Is It? About Dorothy Parker's life, directed by Griffin at Libra. I felt so privileged to be able to witness your work and really admire your presence and commitment. You are an actress, have worked for films, plays, commercials. I read somewhere else that you were also a writer, director, producer, executive producer and editor. Is it true?
Well, I was part of a comedy trio.
Oh.
And we created our own work, which
wow.
we took to Edinburgh. So we wrote our own material and we wrote it ourselves, produced it ourselves, directed, edited. But also I've put on self-directed and produced comedy shows.
Okay.
Raise money for charity. So that's all part of it.
Oh, wow.
Really. Yeah.
So I have so many questions. But let's start with the first one, which is the title of this podcast. Carol, are you an artist?
Yes, I am an artist.
Yes.
I'm pleased to be able to answer that question
yeah.
for you.
So did you also act as a child?
I acted probably from about the age of 14 in school plays.
Okay.
And then I joined a local drama group, so amateur acting, but a lovely group of people out in the countryside of a place called Little Easton, which was the village that I lived in. And there's a beautiful barn theatre there on which Charlie Chaplin has acted. So, many, many years ago. This theatre is now used by the Greville, who was the drama group that I was part of. And I acted with them on and off for many years. So it was my hobby and it's just something I loved to do. But over time, as the years went by, the job that I had in HR became so demanding, it made it very hard to balance my hobby, which I had a great passion for, with my day job.
Yeah.
So I took voluntary redundancy from my job. It's about 2018, I think. My mum was very ill with vascular dementia and in a care home. I knew her time was limited. So I thought, you know what, I think it's time to break away. And two ladies that I'd met, the ladies that I took the show to Edinburgh with, Three Menopausal Maids show, it wasn't about the menopause. We just happened to be menopausal. We were writing sketches and I joined with them, had a great time. I did also do some amateur theatre with other local groups. So I was doing lots, it was all great fun, but I decided I'm not going back to work in an office. I want to pursue a professional career. And so I just stopped worrying about working in an office. Let's not worry about that anymore. And managed to get Spotlight eventually.
And I've seen you've done quite a bit of stuff.
I've done, yes, I have. Yeah, I've been very lucky there. Yes, so I'm now an actor full-time and just try to get work, because obviously it's hard to get work. And as I'm an older woman, I think it can be a little bit difficult to...
Yeah, I'm a bit curious actually about the place of women and women getting older in this industry, which is very based on the image and objectifying and...
Yeah, I think it is hard. I mean, some people have said to me, oh, you'll get work, Carol, because sometimes actresses will drop away from being an actress because they have their family and it takes them in a different direction. But there are still a lot of older actresses around with proven experience. So trying to get through the door and knocking on the door and saying, casting directors, please give me a chance. You know, it is very difficult, but I'm just going to keep knocking on all the doors and just keep trying. I've managed to get an agent. I've had a few different agents over the last few years. And with one now who's very positive, gets me lots of auditions, lots of self-tapes. So hopefully moving forward, I shall get some more opportunities.
And how, because it's such a big decision to drop your job, which is security, also financially, what made you decide really, I'm going to completely stop and I'm going to completely commit to acting?
Well, my husband had retired early. He retired at the age of 60. And I think I was 57 or 58. I'm 64 this June. You know, I'm a little bit older and we've obviously got a little bit of savings behind us. So we just live off of that and a bit of pension here and there. Where I worked in an office for many, many, many years, I've got some pension behind me. So a little bit comes in from that. And we just tick along. You know, obviously we're not rich by any means. We just live comfortably. So that's the only income that we have is a little bit from pension and a little bit from savings that we've got. And then if I get some work, that's great. But obviously a lot of the jobs don't pay a great deal of money.
Yes.
So I'm doing it because I love it. And if I got an opportunity, I had an EastEnders audition. I did a workshop last year. 4 days later, I got a self-tape request through and I thought, oh, great, you know, this is it now. I'm going to end up on EastEnders. And I didn't get that role and it was obviously just a guest role. But just
Do you know that I worked as an extra for EastEnders?
I would have loved to be on EastEnders. And, you know, if I managed to get a role like that, I wouldn't have to worry about any money ever again because that would be lovely. You know, it'd be like a 9 to, not that it is 9 to 5. I know it's like really long days, but if I can get something that just pays a little bit as I go along, that's great.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I'm not desperate to earn that money because we are living a sort of comfortable life.
Yes.
So that's fine.
And how do you learn acting?
How?
Yes.
I think from some really great directors through my amateur acting. I've had some fantastic directors, a really good standard, that have taught me an awful lot over the years. Part of the Greville Theatre Company, there's a lady there, I don't know if she will ever listen to this, her name is Jan Ford. She directed me through Shirley Valentine and I learnt so much through her. Other directors too, can't name them all. And then also directors from a company called Harlow Theatre Company. You know, some really good people. So I've learnt from experience doing that.
Yes.
And I've also had some screen acting training. So because screen is much smaller, and I'm still having training now, I try to go along and have a lesson every 2 or 3 weeks. But again, because of the finances, and I've got to be careful, I can't like pay out loads of money for acting lessons every week.
Of course.
But I do try to keep on top of it. It's very important. You've got to keep your skills up when you're not working. You know, you've got to try and do something to keep the cogs turning.
And I had my first screen acting class on Monday.
Oh, you had it?
Yeah.
How did it go?
I was very nervous because it was also my first acting class ever.
Oh, wow.
So I was shaking. And it was interesting. I really loved it still, even though I was terrified. Screen acting is particular because you get so self-conscious and every little move that you do in your face is seen.
Yes.
Which is very interesting. So I'm curious about how you feel about screen acting compared to acting for drama.
Well, yes, because it's such a big difference, you know, when you're... But because in the Libra, it's an intimate environment, I wouldn't project quite as loudly as if I were on... I did the Shaftesbury Theatre once. a couple of years ago, I was on the stage of the Shaftesbury Theatre. It was one night only. I wish it had been like 6 weeks. But we did this wonderful play called Norman Balon, It's All True. And I played 3 different roles in it. And I got a feeling for what it would be like to project to that sort of size of auditorium. But we were mic'd up. And
which
so,
helps.
Yes, it helped. But in a bigger theatre, the theatres that I've worked in, which perhaps have been between, say, 120 to maybe 220, I've had to project. And as I say, your movements are very much bigger. But when you come to screen, that's where I needed the screen acting training, because everything's too big. You have to really rein it in. And it's really just like us now talking, we're having a conversation.
Yes.
And if ever you get the chance to look on YouTube at Michael Kayne, have a look. Have a look, because he runs this session on there with some famous actors. Can't remember their names, but he runs the session with them. And what he says in that is, if the director walks past you and you're just rehearsing, he thinks you're rehearsing, you're doing too much. If he walks past you and thinks, oh, you're just having a conversation with one of the other actors, then you're getting it right. So it's a case of, it's just like you and I having a conversation now, rather than the big, arms out and
projecting,
big smile and projecting. Yeah. So the more natural you can be, and I'm learning that, keep those skills up by the lessons that I'm having every, say 3 to 4 weeks at the moment. But yeah, it's very, very different.
Yes. And how do you manage then to be natural when it's a character who is not you?
But when I'm doing the screen?
Yes.
Well, I did a lovely film, a short film called When the Clapping Stops. And I was playing a woman who, her name escapes me because it's about 3 years ago. And I was somebody with epilepsy. So I had to become this character who was quite a sort of vibrant EastEnder type lady. And she was obviously very ill and needed a carer, because the film was all about the plight of care workers and how difficult their job is, trying to work in care, but also they've got their own lives to manage. So, but what I did was I just had to put myself in this lady's shoes. How would she feel if, her carer that she really trusted was then taken away from her, and she ends up in tears because he's had to leave because he can't cope with his personal demands on his life. And I just had to put myself in her shoes. And
how would you do that? For example, would you sit down, read through the character and try to...
Yeah, like, say, for Dorothy Parker,
yes,
I just read the script.
Yes.
Say I was doing that on screen, then it's the same as on stage. Read and read and read. And then everything that she says, why is she saying it? Where is that coming from? What experience has she had to make her say this, to behave in the way she's behaving? And just have to really delve into your own life. Where are the similarities between me and Dorothy? Where are the differences between me and Dorothy? And you generally do that with every character. Why does she react like she does to Fred? Why does she react like she does to Eddie? And, just also try and bring your own experiences in life to this role. Where has something like this happened to me? How did that make me feel?
Yes.
How can I bring that to this role? Am I explaining myself?
Yeah. And I think it's so beautiful, because I witnessed you doing that and could really feel Dorothy Parker through you. And I was very touched, actually, by the the piece. And
because she's so funny. She's so witty. She hated being called a humorist. She loved being told that she was witty because that was important to her, because wit has truth in it. And so it was just really a case of where she's funny, it's great to deliver a line and people share the laughter with you. But when she's sad, people share that with you too.
Yes.
You know, when she's sad about walking away, you know, Eddie walked away from her and she feels some guilt because of it. You just have to bring as much of yourself to the character as you can to be as authentic as possible. And it's the same on screen. It's just that everything's like we're talking in this conversation.
It's a bit more subtle in a way.
Yeah.
What's going
whereas
through.
on a stage, you've obviously got to be bigger. Because if just say this was on a big stage like the Shaftesbury, which you never know it might be one day, that would be nice.
That'd be nice, yes. I would definitely come to watch.
A 6-week run at the Shaftesbury Theatre would be wonderful. So everything would have to be so much bigger because I'd be one person on a huge stage. Whereas here, I still have to rein it in a bit because it's not a huge stage. It's a lovely, intimate environment.
Yeah, so you don't want to be almost pushy towards the audience. If you project too much, it becomes a bit like that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a very long script.
Yeah.
How do you learn such a long script?
It wasn't easy. Because I got the role and I was absolutely delighted. I was over the moon because I really, really wanted it. When I did my self-tape, I learnt it quickly and got it in and thought, I really want this. I looked the Libra up and I thought, that's a lovely environment. This all feels right and good.
Yes.
And then I got the job and then I got the script.
Then you were like,
oh,
goodbye.
there's a lot to learn. I'd better get learning. But I didn't learn it straight away. I just read it.
Okay.
Because also I thought, well, if I start rehearsing and learning it and then Glenn decides he wants to cut something out of it, then I'll be learning something I don't need to. So, and then typically, so I think I got it the week before rehearsal started. And then I got a terrible chest infection. And I was rehearsing and I wasn't speaking, I was squeaking. Because I literally could hardly speak. So my voice was like this. And I thought, oh, God, please don't sack me. You know, I really want to do this.
Yes.
And then I just had to break it down. I just had to break all the scenes down and just keep reading them. But the more you read and the more you put yourself into this character's shoes, the easier it is and it starts to go in. And I try to visualise as well. So like when I'm talking to Robert Benchley, who she nicknamed Fred, I'm imagining him. And so what reaction did I get from him? Just trying to see in my mind's eye when I'm telling a story, trying and visualise that story so that when it comes out, it's a story that's real because I've lived it, although I haven't lived it. Obviously, my imagination has lived it.
Yes.
So that's how you learn, I think. Just keep reading and put yourself in that person's shoes.
Doesn't it become sometimes a bit too much when you're rehearsing a character so much, and don't sometimes you start to, I don't know, maybe think like Dorothy Parker and lose yourself in that, right?
I do think sometimes I believe in the afterlife.
Okay.
I'm a great believer in that. And I have said, oh, Dorothy, I hope that you're happy with what I'm doing for you. If you want to, come and tell me and channel through me. Because I hope I'm doing her a good service with the way I am portraying her. It has become a lot in that it's obviously very tiring, and because I wasn't very well to start with, so that was hard because I was coming to rehearsals and I really didn't feel very well. Yeah. Then my husband ended up getting the chest infection and ended up on antibiotics because he was so ill with it. He was worse than me, to be honest. So yeah, it was really hard. But because I enjoy it so much and because I enjoy becoming this character. And it's the entertainment aspect of it. If I can do something and I get this lovely reaction from an audience, however many there are in that audience, if I can make them laugh and if I can take them on a little roller coaster ride, it's worth all the hard work.
Yes.
So I worked really hard. And on this, I had to work really, really hard because there was a lot to learn in a short space of time. So, it's never been too much, but it has been a big challenge because we had like 3.5 weeks.
And now you must be so proud.
I am, but I like to keep everything on an even keel because I think never rest on your laurels. Always just aim to give a good performance, to make people, like I said, take them on this journey, and just aim to do that. And then just be happy if you've made them enjoy a performance. That's each one. I tend to look at each performance separately. It's like, don't count your chickens before they've hatched. I don't know if you've heard of that saying, but it's and don't rest on your laurels ever.
Yes.
A drama teacher at school taught me that when I was 15. I played Annie Sullivan in a play called The Miracle Worker, and he taught me to never rest on your laurels. And it's funny because from the age of 15, that man still is very much ingrained in my head and the words he used. So.
And I guess that's quite useful as well when you have critics. So when they're good, but also when they're bad, I think, how does it affect you?
Years ago with the Greville, I played a blind lady, Wait Until Dark. I think the author might be Frederick Knott. I don't know. I've probably got that completely wrong.
From the montage, this play was indeed written by Frederick Knott.
But anyway, it was a great play. I played a blind lady and I really enjoyed my performance, but I've always felt I should have gone to more trouble to play the blindness. I did it to the best of my ability at the time, but I think I was in my sort of mid-20s, and I always felt I should have researched it more. When I did the Miracle Worker when I was at school, the school took us to a home for blind and deaf people. And I thought that was brilliant because I was the teacher of a blind and deaf person in that play. And I've always felt, oh, Carol, you should have gone to a home for blind people. You should have done more to really put more into this role. And then the review I got, and the audience were brilliant. They clapped and were lovely. But the review I got, it said, oh, I'd played it. Perhaps I wasn't ready for a role of that size. And it really, really hurt me and really got me. But I thought, well, that's their view. The audience were clapping. The audience loved it.
Yes.
But that's that person's view and you have to respect it.
Yes.
But I always felt, I think I could have brought more to that role. So perhaps that's what they saw. But then I did another play with the same company, the Greville Theatre Company. It's an Alan Ayckbourn play. Very funny. Can't think of the name of that one. But that had the audience rolling around with laughter. And I got a lovely review for that role. So it's like it swings and roundabouts.
Yes.
Sometimes somebody will love you and another time they just won't. You can't please everybody. You can't please everyone. So yeah.
That's good. I think even for life.
Yeah, you can just do your best.
Yes.
And my mum instilled that in me and my dad because I'm an only child. And I was very blessed to have two very loving parents. And they always just said, do your best, Carol. That's all you can ever do. So I'm very lucky there.
And were they connected to that word of drama in any way or not at all?
No. Don't get the violin out. But we were very, we were not, I lived in a council house and we weren't wealthy by any means, and we lived right in the country. So the village that I lived in was split into 3 and I lived in a little tiny hamlet within that village. So we were tucked away in the countryside, lovely childhood with best mum and dad you could have. And but it wasn't really on the radar to be an actor.
Yes.
It was, it wasn't, I always loved acting. I mean, even when I was at primary school, I played the witch in Snow White was the school pantomime. I played the witch, and the headmaster apparently said to my mum and dad, "Oh, I think you've got an actress in the family." And so I loved doing stuff, but I don't suppose I ever really thought that it was a possibility. When I was at school and I did the Miracle Worker, then things started to move a bit, and I did go and audition at RADA. I think I was 17, and the school were like really, because it was a comprehensive school, and they were really positive. And one of the teachers took me along to the audition because my dad died when I was 16. And I got a recall, but didn't go any further.
Okay.
And then a few years later, I tried again. But to be honest, I don't think my heart was in it at the time because I had other stuff going on, a bit like Dorothy.
Yes.
I had other stuff happening. And then I thought, well, actually, I'm enjoying my hobby that I love. And at the same time, I have a husband that I love. It was my boyfriend at the time. I have a home life that I love. So I'm enjoying earning money in the job that I'm in, because I ended up working, I was in reception, and then I became like personnel, it was in those days, personnel and admin, which became HR. So gradually I started going up the ladder in terms of my job, day job. So I was earning money, and it was good money, at the same time as being able to act and do my passion in my spare time. I was getting everything.
Did you feel like that acting helped you in your job?
Sometimes. Being in human resources, you do have to pull in. Well, I did, because I had to interview people.
Yes.
I ran induction days and ran presentations, different presentations. So yes, it definitely helped. But, I was lucky, because some people have said to me, "Oh, don't you wish you'd started acting years ago?" And I've said, well, no, because I had a lovely balance. But it was just as time was moving on, and when my job was making so many demands on me, that really it was a case of, well, you've got to decide. I thought, oh no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And because my mum was ill, when the redundancy option came up, I just grabbed it with both hands, to be honest. And as I said, we just manage. We're absolutely fine. Don't need a big income, because we don't have big expenditure. We don't have big house. We don't have lots of cars and stuff,
And also now I feel like when I see more mature actors who are maybe over 50, you can really feel that they've lived.
Yes. Yeah, I can bring all my life experiences. So that's where I'm lucky, because I can bring all my life experiences to my acting. Whereas when you're really young, you haven't experienced so much. Some people have, of course, some people have. But so there I am.
And so that was the first time you were writing for that project that you did with this couple of other people for...
Well, I started writing comedy poetry. Because my mum was so ill with the dementia, and there was so much stress going on. I had my job, and then I had my mum very ill, and I started writing comedy poetry where I would become the character in the poem. I had the drunk, the air hostess. There's a number of different ones.
You were preparing for this play of Dorothy Parker, right?
Someone who's been for an interview brought my job to it. And there was a poem that I did as an old man. And it's a poem written by somebody called John Summers. It's very, very funny. And I contacted him via Facebook and said, look, I'd love to be able to perform your poem. Would you mind? And then he ended up writing Pam and I, which is another thing. It's a separate thing, which is a friend and I are two different characters, Pam and I, which is written by John Summers, but sort of tweaked by us. So we've been doing some little YouTube episodes of Pam and I, and so that's a separate thing. But John Summers wrote this poem. So I put all my poetry together and some of John's and other bits and pieces that I'd been given. And that's what I put together to raise money for charity. And actually in the job I did, which the HR role, in my lunch hour, I performed these sort of, 50-minute shows to raise money. The company that I work for could raise money for the charity the company supported, which at the time happened to be, I think the first time I did it, it might have been a cancer charity. And the second time it was for the Alzheimer's Society. So it was a good coincidence that I was doing that. And then I put this show on in Bishop Stortford in a place called the South Mill Arts Centre. It used to be called the Rhodes Centre. They've changed the name. And I put the show on there and raised money for Alzheimer's Society. Somebody saw me do it and said, would you do it for me? Because her husband had dementia. And she said she wanted to raise money for Alzheimer's research. So I did it again, the show, for her in a place called Thaxted. Wow. And I raised the money there for that charity. So, but that was with all my own work. Some of it, bits and pieces I'd been given and tweaked, and some of it, my own comedy poetry. So, yeah, I've done a little bit of writing.
Do you like it?
I do, yeah. And actually there is, sometimes I think it helps. There's a situation that I've experienced in my life, which has been quite difficult with my mum, with the dementia, etc. And I was thinking of writing a play around that because I think sometimes if you can bring your own personal experience to something, I'd quite like to be able to, I think it would help me to write this play. I thought I might start it as a novel, like maybe a short story, a bit like Dorothy's short stories. Start it as a short story and then turn it into a play. But that's just an idea in the back of my head at the moment. Most of the stuff I've done has been comedy, really. I wrote a very hard-hitting poem about my mum's dementia, about how it was affecting her from her perspective. Like, she used to think somebody was coming out of the wall to kill her, and it was horrible. Her dementia gave her hallucinations. I don't know what other words you would use, but she, it really traumatized her.
Yeah, she probably had visions.
Visions, thank you. That's a great word. Yeah, she had visions. And so I wrote a poem from her perspective. So on my comedy nights, I made everybody laugh. But then I did that one poem just to try and get across, this is why we're raising money, everybody.
Yeah.
Because this is what happened to this lady, this lovely lady who was so kind and sweet. And she had all that trauma and had to live that. And it wasn't like that all the time. But when it was, she was so frightened. My mum was absolutely petrified. And so, but when I did that poem, you could hear a pin drop. And apparently it made some people cry. Yeah. And I did deliver it at work as well, because they were doing a special thing for the Alzheimer's Society. And then the Alzheimer's Society actually put the poem on their website for a little while.
Oh, wow. I would love to read it.
Yeah, I'll find it for you and let you see it. And it kind of needs performing in a way, if you see what I mean. Yes. It's not a beautiful poem, but it's a hard-hitting poem, and it takes you on a little journey, so you could see the highs and you can see the lows, because it was very true to what my mum experienced and what I experienced as her daughter,
Wow. Did you have one favorite role?
One favourite role?
Yes.
I love this Dorothy Parker, I've got to be honest. Absolutely love it. I've played Shirley Valentine, which was a fantastic role with the Greville Theatre Company a long time ago, but that was fabulous. And then I played Educating Rita. I played Rita. So that was another firm favourite. It was lovely being a two-hander. And I had a fantastic actor opposite me called Adam Thompson, who's a fine actor. And so they're probably my favourite roles, to be honest. And then, of course, Three Menopausal Maids, just the fun of it. I going to Edinburgh and just the whole fun of making everyone laugh. And I created a parody of Jane McDonald, who I absolutely love. Jane McDonald. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. No. She's a lovely personality. She does the cruise programs. She became famous because she was on a program called I think it was called A Cruise, and she was a singer on board a cruise liner. Mm-hmm. She became famous through that. So she's a great singer as well. And I did a little parody of her at my comedy show, and I really enjoyed doing that as well, because I bought it. I was doing it in this place called Thaxted, and I bought it to Thaxted. They have Morris men, and I sort of wrote it. I tweaked this thing so that she was interacting with the Morris men, and so sort of wrote it so it was relevant to the people who I was doing it for, if you see what I mean, for the local people. So I love playing her too. I don't know what Jane McDonald would actually think. Hopefully she'd like it. It was fun.
Do you have inspirations?
Inspirations? There are many actors that I absolutely adore. MyAnna Buring springs to mind. Mm-hmm. I saw her in a TV series about Australians way back when they were shipped out as convicts, and she was just mind-blowingly brilliant. And then I saw her in what was Trafalgar Studios in a two-hander play called The Wasp. And once again, she's just brilliant. Yeah. I love her. There are so many great actresses. I tend to just really, I think as you go along, somebody who you might not have liked suddenly does something, you think, oh, she's marvellous, she's brilliant. So I tend to just take things as they come. I love Sheridan Smith, which is another one that I think is fantastic. How she brings herself to her role. I saw her do Shirley Valentine. I think it was about last June time. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely amazing. I loved her. And like the lady I told you about, Jan Ford, she is exceptional. Her acting is exceptional. Her direction is exceptional. So she's been an inspiration. But I'm also inspired by people just in general. People that I've met who are not actors are just really amazing people that don't let age, for a start, get in the way and stop them from achieving their dreams. I love people that, despite their age, just push forward and keep going. I've got a friend who's coming to watch this on to the matinee on Saturday. Amazing person. I won't mention her name. She might be embarrassed. But she's just a role model for me. Wow. There's about 3 or 4 people who are older people that, and only just slightly older than me. Some a little, quite a lot older than me. But I really look up to them because I watch what they do, and they don't let anything stop them. They just keep going. Even if you've got a walking stick, you can still do your hair and make yourself look as good as you can. There's one lady in particular, she is so glamorous. And she walks with a stick. It's not easy for her, but she really makes an effort. I think she's in her 80s. Wonderful. I really admire people like that.
Yeah, my dad's got also a neurological disease, and now he's in a wheelchair and he can't do very much. But he's still so picky about his clothes and the color of the bag. And he was like, I didn't find the right color. I'm not going to get a bag there,
Well, that's great, isn't it, though? Because he's kept his character and his standards.
Exactly.
And he knows what he likes.
Exactly.
And he knows what he wants.
Yes.
And that's what I really love about people. That just go out and do it.
Yeah. A random question of the end. What makes you laugh?
What makes me laugh?
Yes.
My husband.
That's good.
He makes me laugh all the time. He's so funny. He comes out with... I said to him the other day, you and Dorothy Parker would get on really well, because he just comes out with quips. He's really funny. And my friend who came and did my roots the other day, so Dorothy Parker's had her roots done. he said something to her and, well, she was like laughing her head off. She said, "Oh, your husband's really funny." And I thought, yes, I know.
That's good.
Yeah. But I mean, I love comedy and I love the classics and I love Only Fools and Horses and I love Dad's Army. We quite often have those on because I think you can learn so much from the classics. As my friend Leslie Ann Webb, who I do Pam and I with, says, it is cyclical. You know, a comedy comes back round again. You know, we can learn an awful lot from what's gone on in the past. We can learn an awful lot from that.
That's for sure. Do you believe in talent?
Yes, I think I do. I think talent comes from commitment and devotion to your craft. David Beckham apparently became such a great footballer. Well, I don't follow football because he constantly practiced, I think, scoring goals or hitting, I don't know what they do, hitting the goalpost. But he got really good because he committed himself, devoted himself to his craft. And I think if you can, some people are just naturally can do something, can't they? They just can. But I think if you are committed and devoted and practice, then you can become talented at whatever it is you want to be doing. As long as you are disciplined. I think discipline is a really big, strong word.
Yes.
And some people are just naturally talented. You know, somebody that can put their hands on a piano and make it sound beautiful. Oh, that's just a God-given talent. Yeah, and some people just have to work really, really hard to get there. But they may end up at the same level as the naturally born talented person because of their commitment.
And if you could live a parallel life and do whatever you want, what would you do?
Well, be on EastEnders, really. Yes, somebody come and pick me up, put me on EastEnders, because it's not too far down the road. It would only be an hour's drive and I could go and do it every day. I'd love it. And I can cope with like 4 or 5 hours sleep. So no, I'd love to be on TV. I'd love to do some West End stage. I'd love that. But at the moment, I'm just happy as I am. So if somebody comes along and says, right, Carol, we'd like you to audition for this, then I'll just do it. That's fine. I'll definitely go and audition for whatever it is. But a parallel life, no, I like it as it is. I wouldn't want a different mum and dad. I love my mum and dad. I wouldn't want a different husband. I wouldn't want different animals, you know, the pets that we have and have had. I like it as it is. You know, so maybe a little bit more work and some more money. A lottery win would be nice. perhaps that.
That's a call.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well,
that was
thank
wonderful.
you so much for talking to me.